All right, we are recording. Welcome, amazing humans, whatever day it is, whatever time it is, whatever your platform you are watching this on. We're back for another episode of Living a Bold Life. If you are a repeat watcher, thank you for supporting this. It's important to get people's stories out there. If you're a new watcher, welcome. This is just an informal space for two people to get together and connect and share and really kind of paint the picture of all that goes on to living a bold life. And I hope that by the end of this, you get to see you're more bold than you realize you are, because it doesn't mean you have to be going out and being flashy. You know, we get to be bold in however that looks for us. And so the guests I invite on here are people that I see out in the world, and I think they are living what the bold thing is. And so today we have someone who I've known for quite some time now. And I'll give her a nice intro in just a moment, but this is Monique Floyd, AKA King Moe. Welcome, Moe.
Thank you. I'm so super happy to be here, and I love that you're doing this in this way. Love it.
Thank you for that, and thank you for being a yes.
Most definitely.
And so you all
was like, yes!
You're always a yes. I know you're a yes. And if you all remember, some of you who've been watching this might have been following me for a while. If you remember, right when I launched my career in coaching, and I was very much in the corporate field at that point, very different than what you all see me doing now. King Moe was actually the one who did my first set of shots.
I did. I remember that day too.
and you know, like what I do really just want to share, because that was a moment in time that I'll never forget. I traditionally struggle with being awkward in front of the camera and getting in my head. And I was very nervous for that shoot. And Moe made me feel so relaxed, and we had so much fun. And when I left, I remember sharing, every woman needs to experience this, whether they're a business owner or not is irrelevant. It made me feel amazing and empowered, and it brought out a side of me that I didn't know was there.
I live for that. I had that experience with almost every client. And I tell everybody, my job is selfish. It's not selfish, because I live for that type of exchange. Seeing you guys glow up and show up, it just does something to my soul.
And you know, like that is, and I love that I haven't even really introduced you yet, and we're already finding like juicy nuggets to get in. But you know, like that for me was a very synchronized moment, because I remember when I met you, and I wasn't quite ready for your services, but I knew I would be, and I kept your card. And I think a lot of people think they're not going to call, right? They're going to forget. Not me. I'm like nerd over here, where I've got like all my organizational stuff, and I keep all my like things that are going to come. And so when I was ready, I reached out, and why I knew that you were the one, and I didn't have to go interview all these people or research all this stuff. You were talking about bringing out people's essence. And as an ontological coach, my job is to coach to the essence and draw it out.
Again, I had no idea. I move so intuitively. A lot of times I don't even realize what I'm doing.
Yeah, and that was why. And so, you know, that was an intuitive moment for me, where I was like, oh, ain't no one else gonna say this. She's the one.
Oh, Jen, you have no idea. Like, for real. Thank you for that.
Yes. So I mean, we can never capture who someone fully is through a short bio. But you'll get to see more of Moe come out in the conversation. And of course,
you will.
You'll have ways to connect with her and follow her. But Monique Floyd, AKA King Moe. And I love this. And this is exactly why you're here. She identifies as a king. Why? Simply because she can. Creative soul, professional troublemaker, seed planter, permission giver, motivational be-er. Bottom line is, I know that I'm here to move the needle forward for humanity, women specifically. Yes. I feel like I woke up to my life at 35 years old, 8 years ago, and I pretty much started over. I left a career, a marriage, and most things that I found familiar so that I could find myself. And that's when this wild ass journey began. Then I've been giving myself permission to question everything that I've been taught, untold. And then I went about the business of intentionally creating a life that feels good to me. That's beautiful.
I literally, that wasn't written for me. I wrote that from experience.
And I love too that you go on just in your intro to share when you woke up and what you had to leave, because I think we get a story that I missed the mark. It's too late for me. Or, and so I love when we normalize, like, it doesn't matter when. The
Right.
time is now when you get the call.
It is. And no matter, and again, that's something that I stress to people, because I see that and experience it a lot in my work. I have women, I'm 43 years old, and I still feel like I'm in like the super primest part of my life. Like I'm just enjoying it. But so many women look at it like it's the end. They're living through other people, they're living through their children. I'm like, no, you got plenty of time to live for yourself. Plenty.
Yeah, I love that. I'm with you. I recently turned 41, and I am feeling like, you know what? I feel like the 40s are going to be juicy.
Juicy. Oh, juicy, yummy. All those adjectives. Yes.
Like, like more in our power, more in our skin, more in our own self.
In our voice.
Yeah.
Like that part, all that ownership, I am here for it. I'm requesting it.
Right? We call it forth. And I also love that you share how much you left behind. But what I really want to point out in the same breath that I'm saying that for our listeners is, as we get into this interview more, I know what we're going to find is what Mo left behind is nothing compared to what she stepped into.
That's what I was about to say.
And sometimes we really need a lot of support to remember you are leaving behind a lot. Yes, you are, but it dulls in comparison into what you're stepping into.
I literally left behind the things that I felt in my soul were not serving me, like truly serving me. So yes, it was hard because it was all familiar to me. Like that, I was 30, 35, 36 years old, really just waking up to my life and taking a look back like, okay, this ain't it. This ain't it. It took me a little while to move my feet, but when I did, I ain't never looked back.
And I love that you said that, to normalize it, because I know for myself in particular, a recent breakthrough I had is to actually wait a little bit longer before I move my feet. And what I notice sometimes with clients is when they think they have to get into action like that,
Right.
sometimes we just need to sit and like stand in the power of the choice first, right? And like build it up and say, okay.
I was gonna say, build that up. Yeah, I love that. Call in that power from that choice. I love that. Oh, I'm gonna use
right.
It.
Like we're not always ready, right? And so sometimes it's like we go from choice to action, and we self-sabotage because we just weren't ready.
Yep. Definitely. And I've been there before. I've definitely been there before. I actually had a premature stint where I started, I would say, I don't even talk about this. I actually forgot about it. So it's probably 2 years prior to me actually moving my feet and, all that good stuff. I tried it and it didn't work. I wasn't ready.
Yeah.
I wasn't ready yet.
Yeah. And I love that you are saying that. So, if anyone listening to this video is getting down on themselves because they know it's time and they haven't moved yet, it's okay. Trust your pace. That is a different thing for all of us. And as Mo just said, if you step and you're not ready, it doesn't mean you're never not ready. It just means go back into your nest for a little bit and then decide when you're going to check back in, but put the marker in. Is it a week? Yeah. Is it a month? Is it a year? No shame in what you choose. No one knows what you're going through but you.
Right.
So I love that. And so we're already kind of getting into bold moves just from the bio. And, that might be the bold move we go on to talk about, but it might not, because I know you and you're up to a lot of stuff.
Oh, child, yes.
And so sometimes, guests come to this interview and they know what they want to say. and sometimes they come and they just channel it in the moment. So we're good with whatever. But in this moment, Mo, what is one of the boldest moves on the snippet of your, because we just get to see a snippet of your big journey. So what is one of the boldest moves that you have ever made that you feel called to share with everyone in this moment?
Well, you spoke about one of the boldest ones was me, waking up to my life and leaving everything that was familiar to me to really start over and find myself. And I allowed myself to literally question everything that I had been taught and told and redefine it for myself. That was one of the major bold moves. And then the secondary part of that was starting a business for myself and stepping into my passion and my purpose intentionally. Like like everything happened almost simultaneously. So it was like a beautiful recipe for King Moe.
And I love that you pointed out that it did all kind of happen at once, because what I've found is, we do start to create like that chain of events, right?
Yeah.
And when we start getting on an aligned path, it's like that's
That
when the
alignment.
serendipity happens.
And I didn't even know, like back then, this was before I had studied anything about alignment and just personal development, like all those things, but everything happened like on that track. Like literally from me moving my feet, things just showed up on my path. It's been amazing. Not easy, but amazing.
Yeah, and that's it, right? Like we very often haven't had the experience of alignment. So we don't know what that feels like, and we don't always know it's possible. But most of the time, it is the first step. And, a lot of times, and I don't know if you found this, everything is interconnected, right? Like you don't just say, I'm going to work on this area of my life and that's it. So, you probably found going off to do maybe one thing you were really focusing on, it was kind of like an umbrella and all these things under it got trickled onto.
Most definitely. And that I really started to pay attention and notice those patterns when I started a business and when I started working for myself, because I left the corporate world. I left that 9 to 5. I was in the nuclear engineering world, guys. Don't even ask me how I made it. Don't even ask me how I made it for almost 14 years in that dry ass world, but I did. But I did. It was like when I was in that world, I didn't even have to know myself. I didn't even know who I was. But the day you start a business based on passion and purpose, and you start moving in that direction, and that business is a piece of you, and then you see how things maybe aren't aligning or are aligning, you realize that everything affects everything. Like there's not, I mean, literally everything. So if how things are in your business, you got to look at those parts of your life. They're just mirroring each other.
That is so true. And I love what you say about in corporate, you didn't really have to know who you were. And you know what I find?
Robot.
Sometimes when I get corporate clients and their employer is paying, I get nervous because they say they want their leaders to look one way. And you better look out when I get in there, because they will, and they will stand in their power.
Yes.
And you know what the scary thing is? I start to notice they don't really want the thing they're asking for. Because when these women step up and they start to push back and they start to get in their power, you know what? Corporate doesn't like it.
Nope, not at all.
So I get worried.
We need more of. I
get worried I'm going to get fired for doing too good of a job.
Don't worry about it.
If I get fired for that, I'm okay. But I love that you said that, because I almost feel like for some women to be okay in the corporate world, they've had to shut it off.
Shut it up, mute it, whitewash it, suppress it, like all of that. Like, y'all, I mean, you see this big bubbly personality now, but my nickname at work was No Speak Monique. That was that, and I didn't even know people called me that until years later.
I can't even.
So shut down. It was unreal. It was unreal.
Wow. Oh yeah. And so y'all, if you are in a situation where your entire, I mean, you can just be with King Moe for like, she doesn't have to speak, right? We don't have to speak for our essence to be portrayed. So we know there is something going on when we are somewhere and a huge piece of our personality or self is just gone.
It's just, I felt like, this is really, really dramatic, but I felt like every day that I pulled into that parking lot, my soul died a little bit.
I don't
A
think
little
it's
bit more
dramatic.
every day.
I don't think it's dramatic. I think it's true. I think it's true. I think
I had to literally save myself.
I mean, you gotta figure, you know, if you're putting yourself day in and day out in a situation where your soul can't, there's not a place for it. So it's like, hey, show up, sans me. Like, well, how? You're my life force.
Right, literally.
Right? I love that you said that. So as always, y'all, you know my guests are generous. You're gonna get lots of nuggets. Take from these interviews what resonates for you. You know, sometimes it might be one thing, two things, three things. Take and listen to what speaks to you. Because I know a lot of people feel and resonate with what you're saying. I know this. And I really want to acknowledge your courage to stepping out of that into entrepreneurship, solopreneurship.
Ooh,
I've done it.
Not knowing anything, y'all.
I've done it. So I know what comes with that.
Yes.
And it literally is building it while you fly it.
Yes, completely, guys.
Yep, you're
There's nothing romantic about my story. I mean, there's some definitely beautiful high moments and high notes, but it's a lot of engineering on the go. I came from that world, but it's a lot of that engineering on the go and just believing and having faith and standing in that daily.
And Mo, for a lot of people, not always, but when we make these big, bold moves, for some of us, there can be like a push comes to shove, like it is time, I am done. You know, a lot of people who've been on here, it might have been health, it might have been, you know, like something has just showed up where they're like, I am done, it's time. Was there something for you that got you to really say, enough, I'm leaping?
Yeah. It was actually two moments
Okay.
that I remember. The first moment was having surgery. So it was one of those health moments. And I was literally on my back for weeks. I'll share that I had a full hysterectomy at a very, very young age. In my early 30s, which is when all this kind of started to happen. And I was on my back for like 8 to 12 weeks, and I couldn't do those things that distracted me to fill those voids in my life, like going out drinking, partying, shopping, like hanging out with my friends. I couldn't do any of those things, so I couldn't get my fixes. That was the first time in my life at like 30 something years old where I had to really sit with myself. I could not escape myself. I could not escape the pain. I could not escape the shame. Like I literally had to sit in that. And that's when all this stuff started bubbling over. And that's when I was like, I know I'm here to do more than wake up, go to a job I hate, be miserable, pay bills and die. There absolutely has to be more to life than this. And fill those voids with, the shopping, the drinking, and whatever else I was doing at the time. And that was when it really hit me. And then somehow purpose came up. I don't even remember how that word came to me because it wasn't even a part of my vocabulary really at that time. I was living in a robotic world, doing all the things that I have been taught to do as a part of the American dream. Going to college, getting the job, getting the house, getting married. Like I did all that stuff and I was still miserable. I was absolutely miserable.
You know what that makes me think of, Monique? First of all, I really get that because that was when I shifted a lot too. I got hit by a car when I moved down here and broke my pelvis and collapsed my lung. So like you, life was very different, right? And when I got my first coach, they, would ask me questions like, what is your busyness distracting you from? And I'm like, right off, like nothing. And like it was a lot of practices to sit in it. And so what I really want listeners, the thing I want to invite you to hear here, because this is powerful. Very often when we try to be still and we're not practiced at it, the stuff we've been pushing down comes up first. So we say, no, I don't want to do it. But what I want you to know is it has to come up because you've suppressed it. Don't do it alone. If it's too much, get support. We need people to help with this stuff. But what happens when all that crap comes up? Like, Monique shared about the shame, the noticing, whoa, all the things I did to distract myself are gone. And what happened when all that stuff bubbled up and cleared was an invitation to see her purpose.
Yes.
That's
Oh, you
God.
gave me chills.
That's God, right?
Yes.
That's spirit.
Yes.
So you created space for your soul to talk to you.
Yes. Yes. And it had a lot to say, guys. It had a whole lot to say.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, but that was the invitation.
Yeah.
But it still took me about 7-8 months to actually move my feet. There was another pivotal point. So I healed from that. And I woke up to this purpose. And I also realized that I was the only person in my life responsible for my happiness. Because at the time I was married and I was projecting that onto him. I'm divorced now, but I was projecting that onto him. So I had to realize, this was like 8-9 years ago, that I was responsible for my happiness. So I took that with me as I healed. And then a little while later, my little cousin came to live with us. So it was just me and him in the house for a long time. My little 4-year-old cousin came to live with us. So having an extra set of eyes in all that energy, that is when I actually moved my feet. I could not raise him in that. I could not. I could not have him witnessing that, and I couldn't do it anymore for myself. And I just refused to be an angry Black woman, because that's what I felt like I was turning into.
I love that. And I love what you also said, right? So King Moe didn't go from purpose to world, here's my purpose. And if anyone listening has ever read that Marianne Williamson poem, it's beautiful. We are actually a lot more scared of our light than we are our stuff, right? So sometimes when our purpose shows up, it is scary. We want to run and hide.
Overwhelming, because you don't know what to do. You haven't been taught these things. These aren't conversations that I was able to have with the people around me, because I was experiencing this from what I understood. Like I was by myself at that time. I really felt by myself.
Yeah, same. If anyone listening ever feels, silly with some of these things we talk about, keep in mind, they sound really simple, and they are, but they're not easy. And we live in a culture that didn't teach us this, and it's not how we're wired. It goes against the programming they give us.
Yes. So I've spent 9 years of unlearning, and I'll probably spend the rest of my life continuing to unlearn so much.
Same. And I love what the catalyst was for you. You got this new energy around this little human, and little humans have energy for days. And I love that, right? Because I think very often, and I'm not a parent, and I'm never going to pretend to know what a parent goes through. But what I notice is, because I do get that objective outside view, is, and I see how when I am with my niece and nephew, and like they're doing whatever, being kids. And I'm like, what do I do here? And I don't know. So I'll say something that I was told as a kid. I'm like, oh God, that's terrible. That's not very transformed. You don't say that. So I think as parents, we dig into our kit, and we don't always know what's going to come out. But when we do our own work, like you're speaking of, we get to help the little ones not get stuck in the program that we got stuck in. It's the biggest gift you can give any children around you. It's the biggest gift is to do your own work.
And can we take a brief, it's not a segue, but it's in perfect alignment with this. This is something I speak on about self-prioritization, and women putting themselves first and not feeling selfish about that, and not letting the world or the patriarchy or whoever tell them that that's selfish, because you have to take care of you before you can take care of anybody else. Like, because that other person is only getting a piece of you if you're not fully filled up, if you're not coming from a place of fullness. So I don't want any mom, any woman, any friend, any sister, any daughter thinking that they have to pour all of themselves into somebody else, because that's what the world teaches us.
Yep.
You got to fill yourself up first and pour from there.
Yes. And what I also think too, like kind of same vein that a lot of people don't think of. I think we can all agree it's time for consciousness to shift fast. So what's happening is a lot of these little beings coming in are powerful. And believe you me, they can notice their parents, ungroundedness, anxiety.
This one, he's in the other room. That's why I'm pointing.
Yeah, they know.
Telling you, he was a light. He was a flashlight when he came in that house.
And y'all, you know, when our little people can feel our anxiety, they don't feel safe on some level. Because
that bothered me deeply, and I just refused to raise him in that environment. It meant a lot of sacrifices and a lot of changes for myself, but it's benefited us both.
Yeah, and everyone listening, remember, we're not going for perfection. You know, we do our best when it comes to all this stuff, right? We're human beings. We do our best. And getting support, you know, it doesn't mean all of that stuff we do goes away. It won't. We just get better at it not running the show and having more powerful places to come from. So I love that. Because I think
I love this. This is good.
In a little bit of a different way than anyone else has yet. And I love that. So, and answer this however it feels authentic to you, Mo. What I've found is for many of the guests, many of my clients, myself, showing up, being bold, not being fearless, but stepping out, even if we are afraid.
That part, y'all, do it afraid. I continue to do it afraid.
And we just get better at it, right? It's like, oh, there that is again.
Level up.
Trying to tell me that fear means something when it doesn't, doing it anyway. But what I've found for a lot of us is there tends to be some kind of formula or some kind of practices that we really find, like, you know, a lot of people come on here, self-care, God, but for most of us, there are things that we have to commit to keep showing up in our power, in our essence. And for some of us, some don't change, some change. So for you, are there any that you really find, like, you know, to really stay in this frame of mind, to keep showing up in my power, speaking out to people? You know, these are the things that I really need to commit to.
I would say I choose myself daily.
Thank you for saying daily.
I choose myself daily. That's one of the big, like one of my most intentional things that I do is every day I wake up and I choose myself, no matter what that means or look, and it may look different every day. And also something that I do is and this took me a while to get to, is I don't typically come from a place of victimhood. I like to come from a place of empowerment. So when things do happen or things don't go my way or something, you know, lands in my lap that I was not prepared for, I tend to look for the lesson in that and lean into that lesson versus becoming a victim to it. That reframe to me is everything. And that's what keeps me, that's one of the things that keeps me going.
I love those. And so listeners, what I really want to highlight here is that Mo said daily. Often it's making the choice and then choosing it again and again and again and again and again. And when we choose ourselves every day, there's power in that. There's a feedback.
It's a momentum that you gain.
Yep. You see yourself showing up for you again, choosing you again, despite all the reasons the shitty committee gives you not to.
The shitty committee, I like that. I like that.
The shitty committee up here, right?
The shitty committee, yes. And it's that self-talk too, so it's self-talk. Yeah. I was doing an exercise this morning, something that I do every day, literally. So I meditate, I journal, and I have these, I speak life over myself. So I tell myself things daily. I love myself, you know. I'm a visionary, I'm wise, like I'm resilient. Like these are the things that I feed my soul daily. Because the world is telling me some whole other shit.
Yes,
the shitty committee is telling me some whole other shit. I have to solidify this in myself every day.
Yes, I love that it's a daily thing, right? And that you choose empowerment versus victimhood. And y'all, a lot of us have been wired to be victims. It's easy. Reason is when you're a victim, and you know, sometimes I really have to explain to clients, like, you know, I'm not trying to tell you can't have your feelings and feel this, right. But when you stay in victim, you don't have power and you can't change anything.
Right, you're powerless. And I just refuse. Once I realized that I was giving my power away, not no more.
And you know, like, this is really something in the blind spot. Like when I went to my coaching leadership training, I had already gone through masters in counseling, all these things where I thought I was so enlightened, right? And then someone in the room was like, you strike me as someone things happen to. And I'm like, how do you know this about me? I thought they were a psychic. What it was I lived in victimhood and I invited drama left and right. And they were reflecting back at me, my own victim mentality. Y'all, I was in my 30s when this happened, okay? And I prided myself as self-aware, did not see it. And no one close to me wanted to tell me because they probably thought I was going to scratch them. And I probably would have then. I probably would have given a little cat scratch. Don't make these claws come out.
Yeah, but it's funny that you say that, because my ex-husband was actually that mirror for me, and I could not see it. I could not see it I could not see it until I was away from it. And that's when the self-awareness piece kicked in.
Yeah, right.
Like,
well, sometimes if we have a mirror that's not too nice, it's like, I don't want to see that. I'm not gonna look in that thing. Dust that thing off. Like, give it goodwill for a minute, right? So you all, let's also normalize Mo's experience and mine. We see things when we're ready. Sometimes the system might have a lot of trauma attached to it. So sometimes we might need to see that crap in therapy, and that's okay.
Yeah, trust me, I'm an advocate for therapy. I'm an advocate for healing. I'm an advocate for whatever you need to do to be the fullest expression of yourself.
Y'all, we do all the things. We're proponents for all the things.
All the things. And I am so serious. When I tell you I have a team of Avengers on my side that help me stay afloat, between the therapists, healers, coaches, like, this is not a solo job, y'all.
You know, I had to do a lot of work on partnership and team. And I laughed because I had a coach who told me once, you know, Jen, imagine your business, you know, like you get like Emmys, like you do. He's like, do you think you're going to be on the stage and be like, I did it all alone. Nobody helped. Thank you to myself. Bye.
Bye.
And he was like, you would never see that. They think they're partners, they're agents, they're acting coaches, they're makeup people, they're photographers. He was like, their lists are miles long. And I'm like, oh, I see what you're trying to say here. Your team gets bigger when you level up.
There you go. And I swear, guys, having a team, having that safe space and that soft place to land when the world is just chaotic is, to me, has been essential in my growth and my resiliency and in maintaining all of that. Yeah. It's essential.
And you know, and I love that you're saying that, because that really is what I'm always intending to drive home, is when we have these structures that support us and you don't fall that hard when there is literally something underneath you holding you up.
You get bouncy.
I was just going to say trampoline.
You get bouncy, guys. We call it the bounce.
Yeah. And so and I love this because there's neuroscience in this, right?
Yes.
When we fall and no one picks us up, we go back to failure, that the system's like, I know you, I'm good at this, I suck. And when we're with our team, they're like, not on my watch, you're freaking amazing. I'm not going to let you back in that story. It's not yours, never was.
Yep.
And so we just don't spend all that time in our crap.
We don't spend all that time there. And that's something that my coach has said that she's actually noticed with me since I've been working with her over the past couple of years. Like I definitely have my spirals. I have my plunges, but I don't stay there nearly as long.
Yes. And my guess is, after a couple years of coaching or so, you probably also now know how to get back to being much.
Yes, I have all those tools. I have those. And that's another thing, guys, like what my team provides for me is not just that support and that safe place, but it's actionable tools that I can use daily or as needed to take me from wherever I am to wherever I need to be.
Yeah, and y'all, what King Moe is talking about here, it's neuroscience, right? And like what she probably experiences and what my clients do, we start to learn how to live so long outside of the pattern that when we get back in it, we think we did something wrong. And it's like, hey, let's celebrate how long it's been since you've been in it. Okay, that's your growth. You haven't touched that thing for 3, 4, 5 months.
That's good.
It's okay that you're back in it. You know, you forgot that you had it. It doesn't
Yep.
mean you're backpedaling. It just means you're probably stretching yourself again. So that little thing's like, do you need
That
me?
is that new stretch.
Yeah. Do you need me? Okay, I'll go back to bed now.
Good. I love this.
Yes, I love it too. Because I think, a big thing that I really want to break up with these interviews is a lot of people know my story was I did everything alone and I was independent to the point of detriment. My independence got in
Similar.
my way fiercely.
Very, very similar experience. And I understand now that a lot of that is from trauma. I'm an only child. So
Yep.
I was hyper independent for a lot of reasons related to my childhood. And it took the coaching and therapy for me to even peel back those layers and realize that I was operating out of trauma, trying to do everything and be everything, for myself.
Yeah, and I love that you said that, because normally at some point in this show, I will mention you all, when I notice trauma in coaching, it's addressed and taken very seriously. Very often it looks like a referral to a therapist. But you need to be very mindful with how you work with patterns when there's trauma connected, because the patterns are deeper, especially if you had trauma to the point where they saved your life. You want to respect
Yeah.
that, and you
That's
want
good.
support with that, because trauma is a serious thing. And at this stage in the game, I think more people are traumatized than not, particularly probably after the last 4 years.
Mhm.
There's been a lot of trauma that people have endured.
Mhm.
And at the Bold thing, we take that very seriously, and we bring in all the stops and make referrals, and it's a thing. So, mind that of yourself. That didn't make any sense. Mind that of yourself. Mind that of yourself.
That's good.
But yeah, I'm glad you said that, because we never want anyone with trauma feeling like they suck or they should just snap out of it. That's a serious thing, and you need
It is.
support.
It's a process, guys.
Yeah.
It's a process and it's not a lot of the time, like for me personally, it wasn't pretty.
Yeah. And that's why
And I know, yeah, that's why you need that guidance, and you need that help, and you need those structures and support in place.
Yeah, when I actually did a lot of deep work on trauma, I had to be working with the coach at the same time, because I started sitting in the trauma, and I needed the coach to remind me, you can do the work, but you can also step out of it here and there.
Yes.
and create your life right now too.
Yes, most definitely.
Because I was trying to go back in it, right, and live in it, like
Mhm.
the victim thing came up for me again.
Mhm.
Yeah,
I
thank
get
you
it.
for saying that. And so for this next question, King Moe, we never know the answer to this. We just, hypothesize. But if you kind of sit back and imagine, you are where you are, and I think you're in a pretty amazing space,
I am.
and you keep elevating your space. But if you think back and imagine, because you had the choice, right? You didn't have to wake up to your life. You didn't have to question all of it. You didn't have to redefine it. You didn't have to leave corporate. And you know what? A lot of people in the world will make the choice to stay right where they are, and that's okay. We're not here on this show to judge. What I really want to drive home, though, to anyone listening is you have a choice, and there's going to be an impact with whatever you choose. And so the question always is, am I willing to be with the impact of my choice?
Oh,
right? So for you, King Moe, if you made the choice and it would have been okay to stay where you were at, where do you think life might find you right now?
I'm gonna say a shell of myself. A shell of myself, because that was the path that I was on. I was a lot of the sadness and the issues that I was dealing with manifested medically into medical issues. So I can imagine sadness, illness, and not even recognizing myself.
And I
So
will say that is a really popular answer, particularly from people who were in corporate.
Mm,
The women that have been on here. that have been in corporate. Because a lot of the women that I have on here are intuitive, they're empathic. And so what we know is we're going to feel all that stuff in corporate more. Yeah. And so y'all, you know, why, if you're wondering, like, why are all these women talking about, you know, like illness, y'all, suppression and all that stuff, it don't just go away. That stuff, dis-ease, discomfort turns into disease. You know, and so that's why over time, all that stress, all that sadness, all that, I don't want to be here, it goes somewhere in the body.
And it affects different organs and different parts of the body, depending on what it is. I've learned that over time, you know.
Yeah. You know, I think actually, and if anyone listening wants to learn more on that, whether you are hearing this on Instagram or you know how to find me, my very last writer, she's a coach, but she's also an MSN, and her article was called Mindset Over Medicine. And so she talks about how she worked under someone as a nurse practitioner who didn't believe in all the pills. And she started talking about mindset. And, you know, she started training her. And what they found was a lot of the people were starting to heal and feel better because of mindset work.
Mindset, and that's something else. I missed it. I didn't mention this. We were talking about my formula. Mindset work has been key. Like when I tell you key for the past 8-9 years, when I realized it was a thing, I didn't know it was a thing. And once I realized it, I just took to it like, and I haven't put it down. I never will put it down. It's always going to be a continual process.
Absolutely. Yes. I love that. Yeah. So, and you know, hopefully this will empower more. A lot of the women who've seen this and they feel a little stuck in corporate, it's always a powerful conversation to hear of other women leaping.
And it's funny how I left, guys. I have a quick little story of how I left. So I was already, you know, I had got a camera. I was always the girl with the camera, but I got a DSLR, and I actually had my camera at work that day. And I was outside taking pictures of just like the shrubs outside. So, and I got furloughed. So the way that I left corporate, I got furloughed, and I decided to never go back. And when they called me into the office to tell me what was going on, I remember shaking their hand, like, thank you for giving me my freedom, because at that point, I hadn't left it on my own.
You know what? That happens for a lot. And that's why I tell people, be careful about what you ask for. Because when I was in my coaching and leadership training, anyone who made a declaration to be out of a job at a certain time that didn't quit on their own, they got let go, their position got dissolved. Something always happened, right? When declare and fulfill is powerful. And if you're not going to do it on your own, something else might. But King Moe, I really get that. And, you know, I was let go and brought back, and I didn't quit right after. But you know what? When they brought me back, it was never the same.
It was different.
It was never the same. And you know what it was for me? And, you know, for anyone else, I just kept having the thought of, you're only here at this point because you feel safe. And guess what? You're not. You just got let go. You lost your salary. You lost your benefits. You lost everything that you're staying for. And I have found, and I don't know about you, and I'm not going to say there hasn't been challenging times as a business owner, but I trust me and I trust my leadership because I'm always evolving. I've never felt safer than I have in my own business.
I want to speak to that from a personal. Of course, I'm speaking it from my personal experience. The level, and yeah, I've had hard times. I've had dry seasons. I've had lots of feast and famine, you know, but a lot of that was me getting in alignment with myself and learning myself and, you know, all that kind of stuff. But what I was staying for was minimal in comparison to what I've gained on the other side. Like, I mean, yeah.
I feel the same. And I like,
it's been, the other side has helped me emotionally, like in so many different facets of myself versus being there and literally being a shell of myself.
You know, this will tickle you too. Cause you will have forgotten this. But I remember when you did my photo shoot for me and you put me on your Instagram, and the way you described me and my business, and I'll never forget, was heart-led, soul-filled, love-inspired.
Oh,
And I felt so seen, but what I also knew was I was a reflection of you.
now I'm gonna cry. Damn.
And so y'all, like what King Moe is talking about here, not every entrepreneur is having this deep breakthrough soulful experience, but when you are committed to leading a heart-led, soul-filled, love-inspired, there ain't no other way. There's not any other way.
Not at all.
It's
Not at
doing the
all.
stuff we're talking about because it's the only way to do it. And so I'll never forget. And I use that to describe myself a lot. No one had ever said it the way you did. And I was like, oh, I'm going to drink it up and just live in it.
Oh my, and again, guys, I live and move through intuition. So a lot of the times it's coming from me, but not. So once it's out, I don't even remember it.
And the more we do this kind of work and open ourselves up to the divine, the more we're like, I said that? People are asking me like, where are you getting all this stuff you're telling me? And I'm like, oh gosh, I don't even know right now. I feel like it's just coming from somewhere.
Look, I'm just gonna be straight. I channel things. It just happens. I just get things.
Same. I'm actually working with a spiritual mentor now who's also an oracle on a channel.
Nice. I did that about 4 years ago. I worked with someone one-on-one.
It's really cool, you know. I'm just like, teach me.
Yes, I'm here for it. I'm so here for that.
So y'all, Mo, you've already been so generous, and every guest on here is. And so for the final question, you've already given so much wisdom, and this might be something where you want to drive a point home again, or it might be brand new. But if you were to leave the listeners with a piece of sage wisdom, you know, to live a bold life, what is coming to you in this moment?
Again, I'm going to just reiterate what I said before. Keep choosing yourself and don't let the world distract you from that, because that's how they win. That's how they win. Keep choosing you. And it's never too late. Never. I don't care about your age, your predicament, your situation. It's never too late to choose you and choose a different life for yourself.
I love that. And so you all, and remember what King Moe said a little bit earlier, choosing self it's a daily thing very often. It's a daily thing. And I love that you're starting with that, because when I support my clients to create, if there is not a connection point to possibility, there is nothing to do until there is.
Right.
We can have the most beautiful plan in the world, but if we don't choose us and we don't think it's possible, or we're not in structures to keep connecting to possibility, we don't move. So that is the step one, is choosing you, because you're worth it.
You are, and believe in that. Sometimes, like I tell myself, I write on my walls and I write all over the house. Every day I tell myself how much I love myself.
Oh yeah, and you all can tell when I'm really working through something, because that's when the Post-its make their way everywhere.
Okay.
You know, it's like, you are a badass. You are powerful. You know? And it's really committing to that. And I'll even put myself in a really powerful mountain pose. So I'm getting all that neurochemistry.
Look, I am a power posing girl. Trust me.
Oh, I have published, shares with people. I'll call it Wonder Person instead of Wonder Woman, because I want to, represent all identities. But Wonder Person, there is actually a ton of neuroscience that talks about what happens, right? So, like when I tell myself this stuff, you better believe I'm breathing and my body's in the shape. And I'm like, we're pulling out all the stops.
Grounded, yep.
All the stops.
All of that, yep.
And then if I hear the thing in the back of my head, like, that's not true, I'm like, let's talk about that for a minute, you little critter.
Those questions.
You little critter, come on out now. Right, and I'd be nice to that part, right? Because it's still in there and it's me. But I love that. Keep choosing you, y'all, and it's never too late. Never too late. I get to see some people at later parts of their life doing some pretty awesome stuff.
I'm telling you, later is greater. Like I had a natal chart reading a couple years ago, And he straight up told me, you know, basically that the latter part of my life would be the greater part of my life. But I could see that, because that's me stepping into that ownership and walking with purpose and all that, because before that wasn't the case.
And starting to free yourself from the program so you can
Yes.
actually know who you are, right?
Yeah. I love it. My whole thing is I want women to free themselves, be themselves, and see themselves. That's what I'm here to help them do.
Free, be, and see.
There you go.
That's a great note to go out on, y'all. Free, be, and see. And so whatever platform you're watching this on, I'm going to have the ways that you can connect to King Moe, to follow her amazing journey, to bear witness. You know, she shares a lot of professional stuff and really fun stuff as well. So
I share a lot of personal too, guys.
A lot of personal,
it's a lot of fun together.
Which I think, you know, is beautiful, because when we do have a business, it's like, well, I want to know you too, right? So I love this, and you guys will have all the ways to connect. And as always, my request is, if you're watching this and you know anyone this would resonate with, please share. Through sharing our story and through bearing witness to others, we do create a sense of collective freedom. And this is part of how we heal together.
Yes. That's good, Jen. I agree wholeheartedly.
And, you know, and for me, most of the magic in my life is a friend saying, oh my gosh, you need to read this. Look what I found. It's my tribe looking out for me, because I can't be everywhere at once, y'all.
That tribe, that vibe is so important.
Yep. So if you know someone this would help, we're here to spread the vibe and keep the love going. We're not here to sell you on anything. We're just here to say, hey, real talk, real conversation, off the highlight reel.
Love it.
All right. Thank you so much for your generosity.
You are more than welcome. Thank you, everybody, for having me. I hope something that I said blesses you in some type of way.
Yeah, that's another episode of Living a Bold Life.